Ready?
Hit it!
Hello everyone and welcome to Variety Theatre, the Spice of Life podcast with Maria Lovelady
and Michael Alan-Bailey, a podcast that aims to bring all things variety out of the wings and into the limelight.
So without further ado, let's get this show on the road. Coming up on today's show,
we collaborate with the Royal Variety Charity.
We have the joy of having a jabber with Jean and Giles, two very special people connected with the Royal Variety Charity.
And we play Can You Guess the Year by the Royal Variety lineup.
Well, here we are at the grand finale. How are you feeling about the final episode?
I'm feeling very excited, a little bit overwhelmed.
Yeah, definitely.
I think when we started this 10 weeks ago, we wouldn't have believed when we started that the finish line was going to be a collaboration with the Royal Variety Charity.
It's unbelievable, isn't it? Like you say, you just can't predict it. And what an amazing array of people that we've met this year.
We've spoken to directors.
We've spoken to writers. We've spoken to theatre producers. We've spoken to actors. It's been mind-blowing.
It has. And I think to end with people who support variety and are actively keeping variety going and that are using variety entertainment to raise money for such a fantastic cause, I can't think of a better way, actually, to end the year and to end series 1.
So should we get down to it then? Let's get stuck straight in because we've got so much coming up.
I think we should. So for everybody who are regular listeners, you will know that today is our very special collaboration with the Royal Variety Charity. Now
I just felt it needed a fanfare.
No, it absolutely did. Now, we spoke at length last week, as our regular listeners will know, about the fact that we were doing this episode and the fact that we were invited to the Royal Variety performance last week at the Royal Albert Hall. It was the 100th year of the Royal Variety performance patronage and their relationship with the royal family. And it was 150 years at the Royal Albert Hall. And the two things coincided and created an absolutely beautiful night, which we kind of did a summary or a review of, didn't we, on last week's episode?
Yeah, we did. We kind of delved into who was on and what the acts were like and the atmosphere. But I mean, I don't know about you, Maria, but I'm still not over it. I'm still not over the night.
I'm still absolutely not over the night. It was just everything we wanted to be and more. All of the acts were fantastic. Alan Carr hosted and he was just hilarious. The atmosphere in the room was incredible. Everybody was so friendly, just loving life. I mean, just to get dressed up to that level after the year that we've all had, a couple of years we've all had, was just a treat in itself.
And for me, and I know for you as well, because we have spoken about it, but there was no singular standout highlight. Every single act came out and just topped the last. It was just, the standard was insane. It really is world-class talent, isn't it?
It really is. And I'm so proud that we got to be there, and so proud that we got to be there from doing this podcast, and because of all of you listening and showing us your support week after week. Thank you so much.
See, you know, they say, be careful what you wish for. Well, never mind, be careful what you wish for. Wish away, because look at where it can lead you sometimes, eh?
So why don't we talk about the collaboration that we're doing today? Because we have got two fantastic guests. Not one, not two.
No, yeah, two.
No, two. We have two amazing guests this week on the podcast. One is Giles Cooper, who is the chairman of the Royal Variety Charity.
And the second is Jean Dudley-Hardy. Now, Jean is a resident of Brinsworth House, which is supported by the Royal Variety Charity. And Jean is a former dancer and one of the original Tiller girls. We had the absolute privilege of going to Brinsworth House and speaking to Jean. And we had such a nice morning, didn't we? There was tea, there was biscuits, there was a lovely conversation. And it was just...
You can see what's important to us.
That's what we were promised when we went. They were like, we can supply endless tea and biscuits. And we were like, we're there. We are there.
And it's absolutely what we got. We got tea and biscuits in front of a cutout of Morecambe and
Nothing
Wise.
Screams variety if that doesn't.
We were really welcomed there, weren't we? Not just by Jean, but by everybody. There was a real warmth and loving atmosphere in Brinsworth House. And I think it's a retirement home for ex-performers, ex-creatives, people that have worked in the theatrical field. And it was exactly how you imagine it would be.
It is. And it's nice to know that these people are being looked after. I think a lot of time, for us as performers now, we do a lot of complaining about, oh, this is wrong. But it's so nice to know that there are people that are really dedicating their lives to looking after those people that have served in this business.
Yeah. And I think Giles talks a lot more about this in detail in his interview. So why don't we start there?
Let's start there. So we've talked about the Royal Variety Show. We talked about Brinsworth House. None of it would be possible without this man. Maria, tell us a little bit more about Giles Cooper.
2021 marks Giles Cooper's 12th year as chairman of the Royal Variety Charity, a position that he's held voluntarily, we might add, since 2010. Giles is also CEO of Giles Cooper Entertainment Limited and has 30 years of industry experience, producing a variety of shows from theatre performances, including the opening of Shakespeare's Globe, UK comedy tours with acts that include Bill Bailey and Michael McIntyre, along with huge music tours for the likes of Sir Paul McCartney, the Rolling Stones, and Sir Elton John. On top of all this, he's a fellow of the Royal Society for the Encouragement of the Arts. He was awarded Freedom of the City of London in 2014, and he was a consultant to all-party parliamentary committee and regularly visited the House of Commons to give his advice and opinions on the industry. I think it's fair to say that the charity is in safe hands, isn't it, Mike?
Absolutely.
I don't think our audience should take our word for it. Here is Giles Cooper. And Giles joins us now. Hello, Giles.
Hi, Maria. How are you?
We're great, thank you. We're so honoured to have you here with us today.
Well, it's lovely to be here. Thanks very much for your interest in the charity and the show.
Of course. So we would love to know a little bit about yourself, your background and career, and how the Royal Variety has spiced up your life.
Well, I started in the late 80s. I worked on the music papers, The Enemy and Melody Maker. I started off selling classified adverts with kind of like bass player wanted, influences the Beatles and the Stones, and used to type out the ads and take the credit card numbers, and started in that very simple way. I worked my way up both newspapers. It was IPC magazines that owned them both. And I ended up doing the live tour section, which enabled me to get to know pretty much all of the major tour promoters, show producers, and some of the agents. And that led to working for a specialist marketing agency. And we looked after the marketing for Glastonbury and U2's big Zooropa tour and the Rolling Stones tour and so on. And so it was a great introduction to how to promote shows, and ultimately what a promoter or producer does is promote or market their shows. Obviously there's a lot more to it, but ultimately it's about bums on seats, it's about selling tickets. And so that was a fantastic introduction to the business. And then I guess it would be late 90s, started producing my own shows. Over the years, it sort of developed largely to doing a lot of spoken word shows in regional theatres for BBC presenters, shows, lots of fundraising variety shows, funnily enough, before I was involved with the Royal Variety Charity, at the Palladium and other theatres. And it was shows that I met the people involved with the Royal Variety Charity, and they had their own fundraising show at the Palladium and were struggling selling tickets, and asked if I could help. And I managed to get them full-page adverts in most of the national newspapers as favours, because I knew most of the reps through the marketing of big tours and so on. And they were delighted. The tickets sold out immediately for them. And they then kindly invited me to join the charity on the executive committee. And then 2010, for one reason or another, one or two of the senior management retired, and I was voted as chairman of the Royal Variety Charity. So this will be my 12th year, and the chairman and president of the charity automatically become executive producers of the Royal Variety performance. together with the two executive producers from the television company, which now is ITV. And so this will be the 12th Royal Variety Show as chairman and exec producer.
Fantastic. So in terms of preparation for the shows, Giles, how much time in advance does it take to plan everything out and to get everything in, get all the wheels in motion, get all the right people involved?
Well, it's a good year. The things that take the most time is actually booking the venues now, because availability in theatres and venues is actually quite a big problem for them, certainly for the next 2 or 3 years. For us at the Royal Variety Show, we need a full week. So whilst it's only one evening of, with a live audience, it's actually a week full of technical rehearsals, and the building and de-rigging of the sets take considerable time. The other point to sort of mention is that all the artists perform for free. And so when you're speaking to big names, they're getting offers not just from this country, but from all over the world to do similar or something similar on television. Although there's nothing quite like the Royal Variety Show, as we always tell them, that they get so many offers to promote their own product, whether it be a record or tour or whatever they're doing, that it tends to be a little bit last minute. I mean, our friends at ITV are great at sort of getting together, finding availabilities quite early on, but the bill doesn't really come together until about sort of 3 months before the show.
I was going to say, do you have to do much persuading for these big names? Surely, like you say, the Royal Variety is a big enough carrot to dangle in front of them.
It is, and 152 million television viewers around the world is kind of an unsurpassed feat. It's twice the Oscars, and whilst it's just 6 million, I say just 6 million, that's a good figure for the UK. It's an enormous figure worldwide, largely the Commonwealth. But don't forget, obviously ITV are contracted and paid to do the job. Myself and Laurie, the president, and others in the charity, we're all volunteers. So we don't get paid by the Royal Variety Charity or the show in any way. And so we give up our time. We're all professionals in the business. I'm a concert promoter, Laurie's an agent, and so we give up our time. So it's a matter of also trying to fit it into our schedules. But ITV are a great team, and they put their best staff on it each year. For them, it's a great honour as well. The board of ITV turn up to be presented to the Royals, as well as our sort of senior management team, and so it's a real great celebration night. And no matter how many years you do it, it's still an amazing buzz.
I can imagine. So you've talked a little bit about your work and others in the charity being voluntary. What is it about the Royal Variety Charity and the work that the charity does that attracts so many people wanting to give their time to it?
Well, thanks for raising that. I mean, that's probably the key thing of all of this, is that the general public find it very difficult to understand that the entertainment industry needs a charity. To them, they see everybody who works in entertainment as being wealthy, big stars. They see them in the papers every day, But the reality is it's not at all. And Nielsen did a survey a few years back and discovered that it's just the top 4.8% of those who work in the entertainment industry earn above the average UK wage.
Wow.
Which is phenomenal if you think about it. And so those top stars that perhaps the general public see, whether they be in music, comedy or TV or whatever, they're a tiny percentage of the entertainment industry. Whereas most of the business, whether it be regional theatres or music venues or whatever, these are people working job to job, season to season, no long-term contracts particularly. Even people who work on TV, perhaps it be the soaps or whatever, the filming's crammed into a couple of weeks. They might be seen by the general public all throughout the year, but actually the filming's done in 2 or 3 weeks. And so the understanding of how difficult the entertainment industry is something really hard to get across to the general public. However, the royal family always understood that difficulty, because it goes right back to the music hall days of Variety. So the very first Royal Variety Show was 1912, shortly after the charity was set up in 1908. And it wasn't long before King George V became patron of the Royal Variety Charity, which started a long unbroken line of the reigning monarch. And they understood that the industry was a hard industry, but actually how much benefit that gave to the country to everybody, to raise spirits. There was, of course, the war years and so on in those days, and of course, before television. And so the industry was vastly bigger in terms of numbers in theatre because, everybody went for their entertainment to musical. And so it was a huge industry, and the royal family understood it, and they've understood it all the way through to this day, that it's an area that is very difficult to raise money from the general public, but actually it's such a worthwhile and needed charity. As a charity, we've got our own care home in Twickenham called Brinsworth House, which looks after people that were professionals in the industry. They may have been on the stage, behind the scenes. As long as they were professionals in the industry, they qualify for a room here, which is an absolutely amazing care home. We've got our own stage. We have performances each week for the residents, and a lot of well-known names come and give up their time for free to entertain them. There's a bar, and the carpets are all red carpets like they would be in a theatre, and it's an absolutely fantastic place.
It sounds fabulous. I think I want to go there now.
I don't think you're quite old enough yet, Maria.
Oh, I don't know, Giles. I don't know.
Oh, really? Right.
I loved what you said about the royal family being involved and seeing the importance in the arts. And I think it's so great to hear that still the royal family, who are obviously being asked to be patrons of so many different things, still, after all of this time, are championing the royal variety. So when you put together a show, do you have them in mind? What role do they play?
Well, they don't play a role in it. They leave it to us and ITV. ITV in recent years has taken the lead on it all because they take over production of the show. Obviously, we at the charity have an input and we have a kind of opinion and say and so on. But ITV put the bill together. Yes, of course, there is. We try and make it between us as perfect a production for the specific royals that are attending, but that's our own opinions of it, if you like. For example, when the Duke and Duchess of Cambridge came a couple of years ago, we had a choir that was part of the mental health charity, which we know is a very passionate thing for them. And so we try and, wherever possible, tailor it. We know that Prince Charles is a great fan of comedy. And so, where possible, we try and tailor it. But ultimately, the way the entertainment industry has developed, particularly over recent years, it's very much about which artists, have caused, have been particularly big over the recent year or couple of years, and that are relevant for the TV audience.
Absolutely. And I guess that's what's great about it being variety, because you can have a little bit of everything. You don't have to just go down one route, which is why we love it so much.
Yeah.
One of the other things to mention is that over the years, the Royal Variety Show has gone throughout, been staged throughout the country. So we've been in Cardiff, Liverpool, Blackpool, twice, Manchester, Edinburgh. And the reason for that is to try and, certainly for places like Blackpool, to give a nod to them being the home of variety, but also to make it regional. The Queen particularly was very keen on visiting the regions. And so we had a period in our history where the Queen would attend one year and the Prince of Wales the other year, so they'd alternate. And the Prince of Wales did the London show, and we'd alternate it with a regional show. And the Queen always requested to go to the regions. She felt very much it was kind of, perhaps saying it's a duty is a bit too strong, but actually enjoyed going to places outside London.
Yeah.
I think also too there is, thanks Giles, about the mention about the regions is the regional theatre is so important, just like regional media is. So to go to Blackpool again for the third time, and for the Queen to be entertained by Lady Gaga. So Lady Gaga was in Blackpool, which I still love to say, because who would have thought that this incredible star, would be in Blackpool performing for the Queen and the audience. I think that's a real key moment in the history of the show. And Bette Midler was also in Blackpool on the same bill. So it's fabulous that Blackpool, which had a great history of entertainment and variety in particular, was recognised in that way by by the performers, but also by our patron, the Queen.
But I think when you think about Lady Gaga and Bette Midler, there's nowhere better for them than Blackpool. They are Blackpool.
It makes so much sense.
So it's fabulous that you got them there, because maybe they, as Americans, don't understand the cultural significance of that. But for us as Brits, we completely know that they will be the songs being played in all of the Blackpool clubs.
And the buzz that it would give those regional theatres and the people from those places is priceless, isn't it? You know, the fact that, you know, the people of Blackpool, the people of Liverpool, the people of Cardiff are having that involvement from the Royal Variety. I mean, it's magical, isn't it?
It really is. And we were up in Blackpool last year, actually. Partly a little bit of a shame that we weren't able to have a full theatrical audience because of COVID and so on. But it is amazing what an effect it has on the local towns. I mean, they put the illuminations on for us. You know, the head of the council, all the people involved in a town like that, all come out to offer you any help they possibly can, because like you just said, it means so much to regional towns, particularly after, you know, the years recently that we've had, and you know, and I think the regional towns have really felt it. You know, Blackpool as badly as anyone, I think, but thank goodness things are improving now.
How difficult did the whole situation with COVID last year make it for you guys to put on?
Well, the whole thing was pretty horrendous, to be honest. But it wasn't so much, no, not the artists. No, the artists were great. It was difficult to get anybody that wasn't from the UK. You know, you couldn't get Americans, for example, because of the travel restrictions. But yeah, it was one thing after the other last year. It was because we had to plan for so many different scenarios, you know, and as you know, the government kept changing what was happening, and you know, they didn't know really what was happening until they knew what was happening with COVID. And so, you know, we planned it first as a full theatre audience, which is, you know, the Blackpool Opera House is a big theatre, which is, of course, very important for the charity, because, of course, we sell the tickets and retain the ticket money as the part of the fundraiser. But then it got to the point in the autumn where it became clear that we'd have to do social distancing, so 2 meters apart, bubbles of 6. And then it became clear as the autumn progressed that we wouldn't be allowed to have a studio audience at all because another lockdown was coming, which then created a different challenge. And we therefore worked with ITV to stream the show. And we thought it would be great to have streaming for our charity supporters and also the NHS and key workers, which made it a fantastic event. And the way we worked it in the theatre is to have LED screens on all the stalls. So you'd have somebody looking at from home and you'd see their face. So the comic would be telling the joke and they'd see all these different TV screens and people laughing at home. And it works really, really well. We had a great reaction to our charity video, which gets played in the show, and you know, it tells a little bit about the work of the charity and what we do and so on, which resulted in lots of donations, and we got a lot of publicity. As you say, up in Blackpool, you know, we were on the sort of front page every day, and they really appreciated it that the local NHS and the local key workers were involved, and it was a huge success for us as a charity. You know, we got our message out really well, really strongly. And perhaps the focus of the show became more about the charity work than about the big stars and the royals attending.
Absolutely.
Which I think was really important last year as well, because COVID obviously hit our industry extremely hard. And as you said, it's not just about the performers, it's about everybody backstage as well, putting on these shows, which I think a lot of the time the audiences don't really realise the scale of how many people are involved in a production like that. And COVID took that away.
Yeah, so yeah, we have, you know, it's almost 250, 300 people working backstage if you account all the TV crews and so on, and of course all the people that accompany the artists, you know, their whole entourages and so on. You know, it's a lot of people, and absolutely. I mean, the venue in Blackpool, we're absolutely delighted that we went ahead. I managed to get a video recorded of Prince Charles. He gave us a message of support, which we played in a show because obviously he couldn't attend due to the COVID restrictions. And it was a great sort of message of support and thanks to everybody for doing their best to make sure that the show goes on.
I think I speak on behalf of so many people when I say how grateful we are that you guys did that, because I know that as performers, We all suffered a real kind of dip in morale last year when, we were being told that maybe our profession wasn't the most viable, wasn't the most useful. And then for you guys to still champion performance and the arts and the people backstage and, and the Royals to do that as well. I think so many of us are so grateful.
That's so lovely to hear, because ultimately that's what it's all about. For us, it's about supporting the industry, supporting everybody that works in it, and being there when people need help.
Yeah.
And that's what the show's about, and it's what the charity's about.
So we've looked at the past. Let's look to the future, because we know this year you are back with a bang. You are in the Royal Albert Hall, which is an iconic venue. You're back, I'm sure, with a huge show that's going to be so fabulous for all to watch. Am I right in thinking you're back to full capacity?
That's right, yes. So, fingers crossed. I mean, we were here this time last year at full capacity, or perhaps a little bit earlier in the year. But yes, we're selling tickets for the whole of the Albert Hall, which is great for the charity. It's 100 years actually this year of us having the monarch as the patron, and in an unbroken line since King George V, right through to our present Queen. So a special year for us, but also, of course, it's 150 years of the Royal Albert Hall. So it's a kind of double celebration. And yes, we haven't announced the lineup yet, but it's fantastic. And it would be great if you come along.
Oh, we can't wait. We'd love to be there. We would love to be there.
So you talked about you have to hire the venue for a week. How is it hiring the Royal Albert Hall for a week?
Well, it's actually really special, because it's such an iconic venue, and to be there, the charity's there throughout the whole period. That it's day after rehearsals with the artists. Most of it's about camera positions, sound, lights, that kind of thing. And it's just a fantastic build-up, anticipation, buzz amongst the crew. As I mentioned, ITV put their top lighting guy, their top sound guy. It's the creme de la creme of their team. In terms of the venue, they're all buzzing about it. And it just creates this wonderful atmosphere building up, and everybody realising it's all for such a great cause, a great charity. And there's no kind of adrenaline rush buzz like it. It's absolutely fantastic.
Just before we start wrapping up, Giles, I would love to know, looking back, what would you say, what sticks out in your mind as one of your most proudest achievements during your time with the Royal Variety?
Well, that's a tricky one.
I'm sure there's lots.
Well, there is lots, but I think really it has to come down to, raising money for the charity. We're just about to embark on a huge refurbishment program at the care home, which is costing several million. And, we've raised all that money. And ultimately what that will do is it will safeguard the home for the next 100 years. And it will make the life of our residents much more comfortable, much more enjoyable. And in addition to that, I think through the COVID pandemic, we were able to help so many thousands of people with it. And it could have been, somebody saying, all I need is some money to get my weekly shopping in. So we would send out, a £200 voucher for Tesco's. It might be somebody else that needed, look, my roof's leaking, there's nothing I can do about it, I've got no money, can you help me? And we'd help out in other ways. And so to help all these people who are all out of work, all of a sudden, for me, being ready when we were needed, I think that's a very proud moment, because a lot of charities found it difficult. It was such a unique, unprecedented period. But for us to be ready when we were needed, that for me, that's the best bit.
Fantastic. Are there any performers, Giles, that you see coming up on the bill over the years that still give you a buzz when they're going to be performing on the Royal Variety?
Oh, definitely. Yeah. I mean, you can't help. If you love entertainment and you love putting on shows, it's about those magical performances from great stars, from geniuses, and that there are so many to mention. I think that's a drill going on in the background. That's the refurbishment work starting.
I've got visions of like Carry On Up the Khyber, like all the ceiling falling down.
Yeah.
And that's just not me starting a drill. Honestly, that is very genuine.
We can tell. Well, we're happy to wrap up now, Giles. Thank you so much for giving us your time.
It's been such a privilege. It really has.
Very welcome. Thank you very much, both, for all your interest.
And we absolutely did. We let Giles crack on with his refurbishing. And we've got to say, as recent visitors of Brinsworth House, it's all coming together beautifully. And that is down to the generous donations and all the brilliant work that the charity does.
Yes, so when you watch the Royal Variety performance this year, don't forget, if you can, to donate to a really important cause.
And it's funny, isn't it? Because we've just heard Giles there, but regular viewers of the Royal Variety will probably know Giles' face because he's always sat in the Royal Box.
He is, and we could see him, couldn't we, from our seats at the Royal Albert Hall. He was sat next to the Duchess of Cambridge.
And there he is talking to us. This is like our link. Technically, I tell people now that we know the Duchess of Cambridge because we spoke to Giles and he knows the Duchess of Cambridge.
Well, I think the first thing I would do if I knew Kate would be Kate, my best friend Kate.
Kate.
The first thing I would do would be to ask to borrow her dress from that event because she looked absolutely incredible.
I think it's the first thing I'd do if I met Kate, is ask to borrow her dress.
But we'd both have to get it altered because it's about a metre too long.
Might need letting out a little bit.
So we've spoke at length about the Royal Variety Charity and the work that it does. And we had the honour to speak to somebody that directly benefits from your donations.
So I want you to cast your minds back now to the year of 1889. And John Tiller, who was a famous theatre director, had noticed that there was a little bit of slacking going on in theatre choruses, in musical theatre choruses. And he decided to set up his own troupe, which was dedicated to precision and to discipline. And he created what are now known as the world famous Tiller Girls, who were a dance troupe who were all about precision. And this is something that we see loads now, isn't it? I mean, in modern day, precision dancing is nothing new. We see it in the Radio City Rockettes, groups like Diversity that we see on Britain's Got Talent, modern day dance troupes. And it all started from John Tiller. And the Tiller Girls are, everybody knows the Tiller Girls. And I find it difficult to even find the words to articulate what it meant to us. The honour, the privilege, the joy. It was all of these things. To speak to Jean Dudley-Hardy, who was a Tiller Girl back in the heyday, during the 1950s, which is classed and regarded by many as the heyday of the Tiller Girls. They were world famous and they did summer seasons and they did Royal Variety shows themselves. They were superstars.
And it was a real coincidence as well, because the night before we found out we were speaking to Jean, we were actually watching an audience with Paul O'Grady, weren't we? And he featured the Tiller Girls in that performance. So then the next day to be told you're speaking to one of the 1950 Tiller Girls, we just were like,
it's fate.
This is it. This is exactly why we've made this podcast. And so let's begin at the beginning with Jean. She told us a lot about how she got into show business, which is always a fascinating story for any performer, is it? So here we go. Let's listen to Jean and hear about how she became a star. So it's lovely to speak to you, Jean, today. Thank you so much for inviting us.
You haven't spoken to me yet.
Well, that's why we're here. We can't wait to hear all of your fantastic stories about your amazing career.
Do you want to go back through the war, Twickenham Green, where the bombs fell, and then we went in the underground, and that's when people started knocking at my door. Frightened the life out of Dad because he wondered what it was. I loved to dance. My mum and Dad said she ought to go away on the stage, get her out of London. The bombs were dropping, people were dying next door. Get me away. I thought they were trying to get rid of me.
And how old were you at that point, Jean?
Oh, didn't he ask embarrassing questions? 14, I think.
And had you already started to show an interest in being on the stage?
Oh, God, yes. Shirley Temple.
Of course.
Of course.
Of course. Twickenham's answer to Shirley Temple.
And so you mentioned Twickenham. So are you originally from this area?
Yeah, I was born in Twickenham.
And your parents sent you away on the stage to be safe?
To be safe.
So where did they send you?
Dad took me on the train because he knew I was a bit scared. I didn't want to go on my own. Once I was on the train, I didn't care. I wanted to go.
You still got
You still got it, Jean. Still got it. It never leaves you, does it?
No.
And Jean does still have it. Jean has it in abundance. And we were actually really lucky enough, weren't we, to get some pictures of us and Jean doing some posing. So head over to our social media because we've got those photos up there now for you guys to have a look at. The fabulous Jean. And you can see, can't you? You can see in the way that she was when we spoke to her, just the poise that she still has and the way that she used her arms and her hands. It's really identifiable, isn't it? When you know performers and you know a dancer, you can see that elegance and you can always see it. Like we say, they really do never lose it.
And we discussed this with Jean, that elusive X factor. What makes one girl stand out in the crowd of 100 girls auditioning to be a Tiller girl? And there was only a one-word answer from Jean.
Personality.
Yeah.
That is the main thing. Personality.
It makes all the difference, doesn't it?
Yeah.
It makes all the difference, having that little bit of extra pizzazz.
That's right.
So tell us about some of the experiences that you had travelling and touring and doing shows with the Tiller Girls. Tell us some of the places that you performed. It must have been quite
Darling, everywhere. Moss and Stoll theatres, the best. All the big theatres.
Yeah.
Oh, I don't muck about, you know.
No.
So what I'd love to know about the Tiller Girls is those routines were so intricate. How long did it take to rehearse?
Oh, a whole summer. Very hard work. Very hard work. And in the heat wave of the summer, because we had summer in those days, and in the heat wave, very, very, very hard. Travelling up to London, Leicester Square, Piccadilly, doing all the rehearsals. But it was worth it when we did it.
Absolutely. And how many girls did you rehearse alongside?
12.
12 of you. And what age were the chorus?
Trying to think, really. Because I was one of the younger ones. The short one at the end.
Yeah.
And the tall one at the end. You had to do the high kick and the jumping split. Oh, it was lovely when I got up. I was the last one down and the first one up. Oh.
And how was it then working with a group of these 12 young women, and you were travelling the country, you were all together? Were you chaperoned? Were you allowed to go out after shows? What was the lifestyle like?
We were all very good. We didn't muck about. We're too tired, quite honestly.
Yeah.
Much too tired. And then there was always rehearsals the next day.
So it was first and foremost about the work.
Oh, yes.
And the discipline, I mean, the precision of those routines, the Tiller Girls routines, was so tight that the discipline of the training and the rehearsals must have been really intense.
Well, I saw it on television the other night. I don't know how we did it. I mean,
Do you remember the routines?
if I had the music, yes. Oh, yeah, don't forget a thing. Do you know, it's strange that you should be here today. It was yesterday that my nephew came and he brought all the old scrapbooks. Me at 17, sitting on the wall at Felixstowe, Bournemouth, all the lovely places. I had my 21st birthday in Bournemouth. They gave me a party and a cake in the dressing room. Needed it like a hole in the head. Put on weight.
How vividly do you remember them, Jean? When you see the photos, can you remember very clearly about where you were and what you were doing?
Yes.
And yeah.
Oh, I knew what I was doing. And the Tillers were lovely people. We were very proud. But I think they're proud now. Their dancers are beautiful, aren't they?
They are. They are.
I mean, we worked hard, but my God, they worked much harder than we did.
How does it feel, Jean, now when you think back to all those times? Are you proud of the legacy that you've left and the career that you've had as a member of such a world famous troupe like the Tiller Girls?
We were there. We're gone now. Right now, the Tiller Girls look lovely. They're dressed differently and their top hats and everything, you know.
I wanted to ask you actually about what are some of your favourite costumes that you wore.
I pinched most of them. No, we used to have the short skirts. Everything was satin, little tops, lovely clothes.
And what about your favourite theatres? Where were your favourite places to perform?
I liked Chiswick Empire, Hackney Empire, Finsbury Park Empire. But all the bombs were dropping, you see.
And did people still come to watch the shows?
They certainly did, because they felt that they were safe in the theatre. And although that we could hear the bombs falling, the theatre would shake, we still went on and did our number. And everybody was happy, because it was worrying, the worry of the theatre coming down.
So what about, Jean, your career after the Tiller Girls?
I went on summer seasons. Loved the summer seasons. Bournemouth, Folkestone, Felixstowe. Got to know the local people. Lovely. Presents at the end of the show, flowers.
How was the atmosphere different performing in those seaside summer season places compared to performing in the big cities?
Very happy. Very happy. They were like a family. We got to know them. They got to know us. I met my husband, got married at Caxton Hall.
And was he in show business as well?
Oh, God, yes, don't start me on that. You're awful, but I like you.
But we did get Jean talking about her husband, and she told us lots of beautiful stories about their life together. And one that really stuck out that we have to mention is that she got married at Caxton Hall. Now, for those of you that don't know Caxton Hall, it's a huge society venue. It's the place to get married, isn't it? And especially in this period. Now, let me tell you some of the people, Mike, that have been married at Caxton Hall. So we've got...
Apart from Jean. Obviously, Jean's number one.
Jean's number one. Number two, Elizabeth Taylor.
A very worthy second.
None other than Joan Collins.
Of course she did.
Roger Moore, Diana Dawes, Peter Sellers, Ringo Starr. I mean, I could just go on with this list, but we don't have time.
It really was the A-list venue, wasn't it?
So that just kind of shows the type of circles that Jean was mixing in to make that happen. And we spoke about a lot of people that Jean had worked with. So we had to ask Jean, who else did you know, Jean? Who else did you perform alongside? And here's what she said.
You name it, I've worked with them.
And what about you, Jean? Who are some of your favourite variety theatre performers?
Frankie Howard.
He was great, wasn't he, Frankie Howard?
Wonderful.
He was fantastic. He really was. What were your memories of working with him?
He's a joke a minute.
Yeah.
Except when he's dead straight.
Was he a friendly person off stage?
Not really. He was a bit introvert, you know.
Did you find, Jean, that a lot of the people that you worked with had different personalities off stage than they did on?
Oh, God, yes. A lot of them were very introvert, worried about the script, worried about if they'd done it right on the stage. Should they not have done that? Should they, nervous wrecks, really.
And that's another recurring theme that we've found through the thread of all the interviews that we've done and all the history of variety theatre that we've looked into. This sense of professionalism and this sense of never quite feeling good enough, and always, that we see the lovely polished performers on stage, but really they're riddled with anxieties and stresses and worries themselves. But, I mean, that's what goes into being a world-class performer, isn't it? And of course, I mean, the stakes are really high when you're doing shows like the Royal Variety. It's not just going to be a stress-free thing, is it? It's going to be a really stressful thing. I was stressed just sat in the audience.
But speaking of the Royal Variety, there was one question that was really important that we asked Jean.
Did you perform at the Royal Variety, Jean?
I did one show.
And which theatre, Jean, did you perform at when you did the Royal Variety show?
Palladium.
Fantastic.
Of course.
Of course.
Nothing but the best.
And when you performed, was there a sense that it was a different kind of show?
Oh, God, yes. Got the Queen in the box up there All the royals were up there. They automatically look at the Queen. They arrive with their flowers and everything. It's lovely.
And was there an excitement backstage?
Not really excitement, nervousness. Very nervous, because nobody ever thought they were good enough.
How big is it backstage at the Palladium?
Not very big. Not very big. Very disappointing. Grubby, really. I think we had a lot of mice and rats running around.
And were you all in one dressing room, all of the Tiller girls?
2, really. There was 12 of us, you see. We're always losing our bra. We can't find this, can't find that. Can I borrow this? Can I borrow that? Then we go rushing on. Da, 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 da.
It's been amazing to share all of these memories with you. Could you tell us one favourite memory of yours?
Impossible. Amazing. When I think about it, I was so lucky. Very lucky. Happy days, happy days.
Every time I listen to that, I get really emotional, because I just think, not only was it such a privilege to speak to Jean, but getting to do it in Brinsworth House, where we got to experience firsthand all the amazing work that they do. And, this is nothing new. They've been doing this for years. This is a really, really important aspect of the Royal Variety Charity. And for us to be invited and to be immersed into that, and to get to speak to all of these people, even the chefs that we spoke to the matron, they were so lovely, and it was so overwhelming and positive that I just think, I don't know, I get misty-eyed whenever I think about that. And I think we will never forget Brinsworth House. That was such a special experience for us, wasn't it?
It really was. And we have to point out that it's a really rare opportunity to have been invited to Brinsworth House. I think there's only ever been a handful of people that have gone in there to sort of, we don't see ourselves as journalists, but to report on what happens within Brinsworth House. And one of those people is Meghan Markle. She had a lot of press. And so for us to be given that opportunity to share it with you, our beloved listeners, was really, really, truly an honour. And we are so grateful to the Royal Variety Charity, of course, that we got to go to see the performance, but really for inviting us in and making us feel at home at Brinsworth House, and to raise awareness on such an important issue. Because without the Royal Variety Charity, many performers such as Jean would possibly have nowhere else to go.
Absolutely. And I think for you and I, it's really important that we specifically give a massive shout out and a massive thanks to David Pogson, who made it all happen for us. He's the PR and the marketing manager, and he's been the guy that we've been communicating with. Again, I feel like I say this about everybody, but we were lucky enough to get a photo with David at the Royal Variety Show. He came and found us, didn't he? He found us in a sea of people.
So he was with the royals themselves, and he left and found us in a sea of people to welcome us to the performance. And we got a lovely photo of him. And for those of you who are keen, avid listeners, you will have heard in both interviews with Jean and Giles, David chips in a few little comments. So if there was a rogue voice there in the interviews that you thought, who's that? It was David. So thank you very much to everybody at the Royal Variety Charity for making this episode possible. Now, something that we wanted to do is have a little game with you, our listeners. So we would love to know who was on the bill at the Royal Variety performance the year that you were born. This is something that me and Mike have been looking into, and we would absolutely love for you to get in touch and tell us. So, Michael, let's have baby first. For those of you that don't know, I'm just a couple of years older than Michael. So let's have the youth first.
Well, it's worth pointing out that I mean, and you must be exactly the same, that we got home and devoured the programme for this. And at the back is a list of every performance that's ever been put on, including all the acts.
And I have to say that information, I mean, we've got it beautifully in our programmes that were provided for us at the performance. But that information is all on the Royal Variety Charity website. So go to the Royal Variety Charity website. You will find every single performance, who was on, where it was at, and which royal attended. And it's just an absolute treasure trove of information. And we used it, didn't we? A lot of that information when we were writing our own show Twice Nightly. It was a really helpful resource for us. So go on, have a little look. If you're there, while you're there, maybe donate a little bit of money to the charity. Of course, they would appreciate it. And have a look who was on the year you were born. Now, Michael, take it away.
Okay, so obviously I'm not going to read everybody because the list is very, very long, but here are some of the highlights. So, the Royal Variety performance was held at the Victoria Palace in London, and it was held in the presence of Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II. Sir David Frost was the host, and the acts included Diana Ross, Michael Ball, Jim Dale, Les Dawson, Roy Hood, Eric Idle, Patti LuPone, Julia Mackenzie, Elaine Page, the Roly-Polies, Leah Salonga, Ned Sherrin, Wayne Sleep,
I can't get over this. This is an incredible show.
It is. Well, do you know why? You know, one of the reasons it was an incredible show is because this year it also incorporated the cast of Hey, Mr. Producer. Which is one of our favourites. And this was the year. So little bits of that were incorporated as well. So, for example, we had the cast of so many musicals, so many Cameron Mackintosh musicals like Les Mis, Cats, Phantom of the Opera, Miss Saigon, Evita. What a year.
What a year. And can I just point out what I can see poking out there? That there were the 60s Tiller girls.
The 60s Tiller girls.
So not quite our Jean, but the people that came after her. And actually, that's something that I loved in that interview that I forgot to reference. I absolutely loved that Jean said that the Tiller girls have got better. Now, I think that's just fantastic because I think a lot of the time, people can kind of get stuck in the past, can't they? And sort of say, oh, it was better back in the day. But what Jean was saying, and Michael Beer said on our episode last week, was that the dancing world is getting better and better. And I just love that because one of the things that we're doing on this podcast is reflecting back on the past and say, wasn't it fabulous? But also what it's great to do is look to the future and think, how can we build on the past and make it better? And Jean summed that up brilliantly.
Well, the Hey Mr. Producer thing was a giveaway. If anyone who's a big fan of that show as we are, the year was, of course, 1991, the year of legends. Right then, let's turn the clocks back a couple of decades.
Crank them right back, right?
Crank them right back.
I have to say that listeners, you will be able to tell my age when I tell you who was on the bill the year I was born, right? So mine was held at the London Palladium. Nothing but the best for me, darling.
Of course it was.
And it was attended by Her Majesty, the Queen Mother. Now, I had Ronnie Corbett, Bruce Forsyth, Mickey Rooney, Anne Miller, the cast of Bread, Julio Iglesias, Bob Monkhouse, the Golden Girls. But these could kind of have been across quite a couple of years, right? There's quite a few years in which those acts make sense. So listeners who are trying to guess the year, this is very Pop Master, isn't it? When you have to guess the year of the song. So also on the bill was Kylie Minogue and the cast of Neighbours.
Love it.
So, of course, my birthday, late 80s. Not only did we have them, but we also had Aha,
Bananarama,
and Bananarama. So 1988, there we go. Cast of Neighbours. Couldn't get more 80s than that.
I mean, where else are you going to hear on a podcast lines like Anne Miller and the cast of Bread? What a line. What a lineup. Can you imagine being backstage and there's Kylie in one corner, Anne Miller in the other, and then Ronnie Corbett in the other?
Now let's try and guess a few more years. Mike will play this with each other, but listeners, please play along at home. What year were these acts the headliners at the Royal Variety performance?
Okay, your first one is, this performance was held at the London Palladium in the presence of Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II, and the acts included the John Tiller Girls, Tommy Cooper, Cilla Black, Millicent Martin, Morecambe and Wise, Gracie Fields, Jimmy Tarbuck, Cliff Richard and the Shadows, Bob Newhart, and Lena Horne. Now, Cliff Richard and the Shadows is a bit of a clue, I reckon.
Why? Because they were still together. He wasn't just there on his own.
Yeah.
Right. I am going to go 64.
Oh, spot on!
No way.
64?
No, my mum will be so impressed that I got that right because of the Cliff Richard and the Shadows connection.
And a fun little quick fact as well. Did you know that Cliff Richard is the person that's performed on the Royal Variety Show the most?
Well, there you go. Okay, this performance was at the London Palladium. It was attended by the Duke of Cambridge and the Duchess of Cambridge. It included Michael McIntyre, Bette Midler, Jack Whitehall, Demi Lovato, Stephen Mulhern, Ellie Goulding, One Direction, and Alfie Boe.
I remember it vividly. I remember that they all came on at the end and sang Fly Me to the Moon.
Oh my gosh, and I've actually missed out that this year also had Ed Sheeran, Dame Shirley Bassey, and Miss Saigon.
What a year!
What an absolute year. I mean, where else would you find Bette Midler and McBusted on the same bill?
Not enough places, if you ask me.
So what year was it, Mike?
Oh, gosh. I think it was, I'm going to say 2015.
You are 1 year out. Which way are you going to go?
14.
Yes.
Yeah.
2014. Of course you were going to get that right. You remember, Bette. How could
I remember
forget?
watching that one. It was a brilliant show. So this performance took place at the at the Festival Theatre in Edinburgh, in the presence of Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II and His Royal Highness the Duke of Edinburgh. Acts include Lane Theatre Arts, Rachel Stevens, Ronnie Corbett, Kat Deely, Daniel Bedingfield, Busted, Donny Osmond, Gloria Estefan, Jamie Cullum, Katie Melua, Cirque du Soleil, Westlife, and Pavarotti.
2004.
Oh, 1 year out. Which way are you going?
2003.
Yeah, 2003.
Woo, we're quite good at this.
Isn't it just mad? Isn't it just mad that Rachel Stevens and Pavarotti were on the same bill?
Mad, but that's what we love. Okay. So the last one for you, Mike, is Blackpool, the Opera House, in the presence of Her Majesty the Queen and His Royal Highness the Duke of Edinburgh. Acts included the John Tiller Girls, the Victoria Palace Girls, the Crazy Gang, Morecambe and Wise, George Formby, Eddie Fisher with the BBC Northern Orchestra, and Al Reid.
Oh, gosh. George Formby threw me. Okay. I will say 1965.
Oh, you're a decade out. Exactly a decade out. Which way?
Well, you see, Morecambe and Wise lead me to think that it must be 75 then.
No, 55.
55?
55. And they're slap bang in the middle of the bill. So this must have been right at the beginning of their career.
Wow. Oh, I think you've won this game. You got the closest.
Thank you. Well, you did a lot more modern ones for me, to be fair. Let us know how you did at home. How many did you get right? And can we guess your birth year by the lineup of the Royal Variety performance? Do get in touch. We always love to hear from you. And we'd love to say thank you to all of you for listening over the last 10 episodes. We hope that you've enjoyed it as much as we have. Thank you for listening. And we want to say to all of you, have an absolutely Merry Christmas.
Remember to tune into the Royal Variety Show on ITV. It's a spectacular show. And have a little look out for us. We might be in the audience. You might spot us in our sparkly outfits.
I think if anyone would have been spotted in that outfit, it would have been Mike, because Mike wore a very extravagant, shiny gold, shimmering jacket that was commented on what felt like every single person there. Every time I went to the bathroom, I would come out and he just would have a flock of women around him. complimenting him on his jacket. It was like literally a sea of black penguin tuxedos. And then Mike just shimmering like glitter ball in the middle. So if anyone's going to be spotted from the performance, it will probably be the Duchess of Cambridge and Michael Alan-Bailey.
You can see the light bouncing off us, like bouncing off me and Kate. But again, all of the pictures from our fabulous night at the Royal Variety, all the information is over on our social media, on Facebook and Instagram at Frame This Presents, or on Twitter at Frame This Presents, SOLP. Give us a like, give us a follow, shout out in any of your favourite moments of the series, or any memories or special highlights you have of your experiences at the Royal Variety. It's so universal, it's so world famous that everybody must have a favourite memory or a favourite performance.
Now, we can't sign off with our usual sign off of see you next week. So all that's left for us to say is...
See you next year.